Hi there, readers. Today we're going to visit the home of one of my very favorite American authors. When I was in high school as a junior in my American Lit class, when I first read this author, and my teacher, Mr. Fruth, taught us about his life and his background, he really became a real person to me. And that's what made me fall in love with literature and why I decided to become an English teacher. And hopefully, every day I bring some of that love for literature to my own students. Today we're going to travel to several of the homes of Nathaniel Hawthorne. Nathaniel Hawthorne was born July 4, 1804, in Salem, Massachusetts. He spent much of his childhood and some of his adult life in Salem. He also spent some time in Concord, as well as other cities throughout Massachusetts, but these are the two we'll focus on today. One thing I want to point out to you, Salem is well known from the Salem witch trials. In school, if you read The Crucible by Arthur Miller, you'll probably recognize the town of Beverly, which also takes place in there. And Danvers is also one of the towns that had witch trials going on. This is the home that Nathaniel Hawthorne was born in Salem. Today, it's been moved to a location closer to the ocean, close to the House of Seven Gables, which we'll be talking about soon, so that all of those could be on the same property, and you can go and visit it today. This is the room that Nathaniel Hawthorne was born in on the second floor. And this is probably his parents' room. Nathaniel Hawthorne's father was a sailor, and when Nathaniel was 4 years old, his father died at sea. These are a few of the other artifacts you can see if you get to visit Nathaniel Hawthorne's birthplace someday. A couch that actually belonged to his family, a checkerboard that he played on. This is an interesting piece of history. It's a promissory note that Nathaniel Hawthorne's mother, Elizabeth, signed after his father was lost at sea. And it said that Elizabeth, as well as her children, were responsible for the debt that was incurred by her husband before his death from yellow fever. After Nathaniel's father died, he was raised mainly by his mother's family, the Mannings. They moved between Salem and Maine throughout his childhood. Nathaniel was the sixth generation Hawthorne living in Salem. In 1842, Nathaniel married Sophia Peabody. The Peabodys were a prominent family in Salem. They were very well known. You can still find their name on things there today. They had a very happy marriage and were very in love. Their children said of them later that no one had as good of a marriage as they did. When they were first married, they rented this house, the Old Manse, from Emerson's family. This was built by one of Emerson's grandfathers, and he lived there part of his life as a child, and then rented it out. Henry David Thoreau planted a garden as a wedding present for Nathaniel and Sophia. A manse is a home where a preacher lives, and while he was living here, Nathaniel wrote a collection of short stories called Mosses from the Old Manse, which is how the house got its name. This is a view of the yard and the back of the house, and from where I'm standing to take this picture, if you turn around, you can see this bridge. This is the bridge that the Minutemen crossed in April of 1875, which was the beginning of the American Revolution. While they were living at the Old Manse, Nathaniel did a lot of his writing here, and you can see in the windows, he and Sophia left a lasting imprint of themselves. Using her wedding ring, Sophia and also Nathaniel scratched into the glass there. On the left, there's an interpretation because it's a little hard to read the faded writing. Nathaniel Hawthorne, this is his study, 1843. The smallest twig leans clear against the sky, composed by my wife and written with her diamond. Inscribed by my husband at sunset, April 3rd, 1843, on the gold light. In that same room, we can see the small desk where Nathaniel Hawthorne did most of his writing while he lived in the Old Manse. If we return to Salem, we can visit the House of Seven Gables. This house gave Nathaniel Hawthorne the title of one of his books. This was owned by one of his cousins, and Nathaniel often went to visit her throughout his childhood. One day, as they were sitting in the parlor, and she was telling stories about people who had lived there previously, Nathaniel said that he was going to someday write a book about the house. In Nathaniel's books, The House of Seven Gables, The Scarlet Letter, and some of his short stories as well, there's a feeling of guilt that pervades the books. This is likely from Nathaniel Hawthorne's own experiences. One of his great-grandfathers was a judge in the Salem witch trials, and Nathaniel always felt guilty about that. His family's name was actually Hawthorne, and to separate himself from the Salem witch trials and from that ancestor, Nathaniel added the W, making the family's name Hawthorne. The House of Seven Gables is right on the coast, and it's very windy there. This is the inside of the house. At one time, the home was owned by a wealthy sea captain before it came to Nathaniel's cousin. In this room, in a cabinet behind the wall, you can see where they stored glasses. This is the dining room in the home. On this table, we can see a block of tea. This is tea leaves pressed very tightly together. And to make the tea, they'd use a knife and scrape a little bit off, and that's what they would use to brew. The tea that the colonists threw into Boston Harbor would have been in this form. In the early 1900s, the House of Seven Gables was bought and was repurposed as a place to teach English to incoming immigrants. In order to raise money for this school, the house was renovated and tours were given. This secret staircase was added behind the fireplace. That was not actually there originally. Nathaniel Hawthorne would have never seen this stairway. It was built in the early 1900s, but this was one way that they advertised the home and got people to come and visit. The stairway leads up to a small attic room. And here in the attic, you can see places where the gables were. At different times during the life of this house, gables were taken away and gables were added. Nathaniel and Sophia had 3 children, Una, Julian, and Rose. After Nathaniel died in 1864, his wife Sophia and their daughter Una moved to England, where both of them died. Later, both of their bodies were returned to Concord to the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery, where they're now buried near Hawthorne's tomb. Here's a selection of the books that Hawthorne is best known for: The Scarlet Letter, probably his most famous, The House of Seven Gables, The Twice Told Tales. He had several collections of short stories. The short stories are some of my favorites. In the short stories, as well as in the novels, the idea of guilt and shame is pervading throughout those. And again, that was from Hawthorne's own experiences and his own life. These are some of the sources that I got information and pictures from. If you want a great biography of Hawthorne, I recommend Hawthorne: A Life by Brenda Wineapple. Special thanks to the Lilly Teacher Creativity Fellowship, which helped fund this trip. Thank you to my husband Randy for his help with photography for this video. Thank you for joining me for this video today. I hope you learned some more about Nathaniel Hawthorne and will read some of his books and short stories. Bon voyage!